What is African art? What makes African art so African? And what makes it so authentic? In this X-minute video, I'll be explaining what African art is and why it shouldn't be considered anything else other than African art. Before we get started, I need to address that according to the World Population Review, Africa is home to over 1 billion people, with about 54 recognized countries, and although there's no way to get an accurate number, there is believed to be over 3,000 tribes in the continent. With so many people living all over the second biggest continent, it becomes tricky to define what is considered African art when there's so much diversity in the amount of people and culture that exists in the continent. But that is one of the biggest identity that Africa has. It is full of diversity. And just like the Ghanaian philosopher Kwame Appiah said, there is not one Africa, but many in the world today. I want to start out by saying that the African people didn't view their art as we view it as art. The African people viewed it as something else, and if we look back to the origins of this so-called art, we go back over 50,000 years ago to the Sans people and their cave paintings. The Sans people are the oldest population on Earth, and as such, there is DNA in them that can be traced to every human on Earth. A popular misconception people have of African art is that there is nothing more to see other than prehistoric cave painting. However, this form of art that predates history itself, these cave paintings were consisted of large animals that for so many years scientists could not understand what was the purpose of them. Some scientists believe that the purpose of the cave paintings were to try to understand their prey, but because of lack of evidence of animal remains, suggested that the Sans people did not eat these large animals, such as lions, deers, and elephants. It wasn't until the 19th century with David Lewis Williams, a scholar, these cave paintings were a product of sense deprivation from the Sans people when they dived deep into the caves. During this deprivation, the Sans people were able to have visions that they believed were a vision of something holy, and the first images they saw were of large, beautiful spirits, and so they drew them because they believed they were something sacred. The discovery of the meaning of these cave paintings were very important because these cave paintings could be found everywhere in the world. They were all created from bodily fluids that represented life and death, and these cave paintings gave proof that we all at one point came from Africa. Although these cave paintings can be found in Asia, Europe, and Australia, because these cave paintings give direct proof that we originated from Africa, it is considered African art. And just like hip-hop, any culture that is born in Africa and comes from its direct descendants is called African art. African art doesn't have to be made in the geographical location to be considered African art. One gallery in Amsterdam called the Italiander Gallery, located in the Canal neighborhood of Amsterdam, has work of African art that is considered primitive. This label that African art is considered primitive is very disgraceful because African art does not live within European standards. While Western art is viewed as something of high critical thinking because of its unique aesthetics and the meaning behind them, African art was used to tell stories, pass down history, spiritual life. They were used for their deities, and basically they had a function in the everyday life of all Africans. The unique aesthetics of these African art, paintings, and sculptures originally made Europeans view them as something of idol, craft, and artifacts. It wasn't until the Europeans started looking at these artifacts from the African viewpoint was their minds changed. The following images are by Jacob Lawrence, a African American artist who depicts the migration of the Southern African Americans to the North. It is told in a form of a novel/memoir. This work is similar to Congolese artist Trico Piola painting such as this in a way that they talk so much about the African struggle they faced during their respective time period in just a few paintings. As the African world moves into the modern world, so does the art. Modern African artists such as El Anastas, Villa de Bay, and Jacob Lawrence used recycled material to put a deeper meaning into their painting. El Anastas, for example, used bottle caps and old liquor bottles to create his sculptures. These materials weren't just used to their aesthetics, but to create a message of consumerism, environmental issues, and the impact of slavery. These wonderful and deep meaning found in African, both modern and pre-modern artwork has a profound effect today, as African artwork has grown in popularity and value. In the Sotheby's auction house, these prizes of African sculptures shows how much in demand and popularity they are right now. Which is funny to see, as they were once considered as primitive by the Europeans. World My favorite modern African American artist, Kindi Wilde, created bold oil paintings of African American culture. His whole ideology is to reconfigure how African Americans are viewed through the art culture. Mr. Wilde does not change the culture of African American, but he uses old European portrait as the inspiration to his artwork. The end result gives it a very polished and colorful perspective. Comparing Wilde's work to those that he drew inspiration from, you can see that Wilde challenges the European oppressors' work of art to show just how times have changed when European leaders were admired worldwide and now minorities are looked up upon. What is African art? In short, it's anything created by an African artist. The artist doesn't have to be from Africa because it also includes their close descendants. And what makes African art so African and authentic? Well, the answer is simple. African art plays by its own rule. It has its own standard and meaning that no one can understand without research. Each sculpture and painting are done with a message. It isn't done for narcissistic reason. It is not for the artist to put their feelings in. No. It is to make a message on society, spirituality, and history.